advocating for a group of women that are going to be going for your men. Um, I understand why professional black women don't like the whole idea of your well-to-do black men going off. I get that. But the dumb part about it is you oftentimes you have your single, no children black women who tend to be more educated black women that will sometimes come through and advocate for black women with children. And your black women with children, typically speaking, aren't the ones that have their degree. I have my MA from Howard University and I'm working in corporate America. They're just not. And oftentimes your black women with no children will advocate thinking that these women are only really checking for blue-collar black men. So it's more so about getting blue-collar black men to not be against dating single mothers. And you sit back and you're like, I can understand why you would want to help out your fellow black women, but if you look at your single mothers, right, they're still checking for your well-to-do sort of white-collar men that fall into that category. So they're not on some like, oh, Jermaine, who's the lawyer, is with the white chick, but it doesn't really matter to me, right? They're still on some like, what's really good? How come I'm not an option, right? So it's almost like, black women who don't have any kids should be more mindful, because what if we got to a point where black men across the board were on some like, alright, let's, see what's good with your single mothers of the world. That doesn't solve their problem, right? It doesn't address their problem, because typically speaking, your educated black women that have been doing the most complaining, mind you, aren't the ones with kids. So your brothers is like, okay, let's see what's going on. She may be ready to play ball. She's got humbled, so she's not on some like that combative tip. She's ready to do what she's supposed to do. And the brothers have this sort of new viewpoint where it's okay. That still doesn't help out your professional, well-to-do black women, once again, that have been doing the most complaining. So you're like, yo, you better be careful in terms of what you're advocating for, because for me, right, like I said, you see why your professional black woman may be upset when her black male counterpart is with a non-black woman, but let's not sit here and act like professional black women are just going to be okay if professional black men were on some like, yo, it's okay to date a woman with a child, right, considering that, once again, black women with children don't fall into that sort of, I'm professional and I work for corporate America. Right? They don't fall into that category. So you're still going to be upset. You're not going to co-sign my wedding to Shamika, who has 2 kids, right? You're not going to want to put on the baby shower, right, on some like, hey girl, I'm so happy for you. You're still going to be on that, where does that leave me? Where does that leave women in my category? So you sit back and you're like, you understand one black woman helping out another black woman, but you sit back and you're like, as much as y'all want to help each other out, y'all still competing for the same group of men, right? And like I said, I don't know if they know this or not, but your black women with children are still trying to see what's good, right? They're not on some like, oh, we're throwing away white-collar black men because we know it's not going to happen. They're still like, hey, yeah, all your well-to-do black men, they want non-black women. And it's like, whoa, you have a kid. So you're telling me you feel like you're still in the running. And a lot of them will say, yeah, I do. Right? How come I can't get mine? How come I don't qualify? Not to say, not to knock blue-collar black men, but I still want to know what's good with all black men. And you're like, I wonder if professional black women understand this. Right? But anyways, for me, I feel like your professional black women aren't aware of this, or they're almost using it as a ploy. Going back to that whole beauty thing that Willie P touched on some like, let me get black men to find Alec Weck attractive, right? Or let me try to force it down black men's throats, knowing that black men will say no every time. So you ask black men to check for Alec Weck 1 million times, and you're going to get 1 million black men saying no, right? Only for them to come through and say, hey, I have Cherokee in my blood, right? Or my grandfather's Irish, on some like, oh, I'm the alternative to that, so setting themselves up right? And I feel it's the same way a lot of the times with the whole what's wrong with a black woman with kids. Because they know time after time, the men are going to say no, 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 to the point where it can get annoying, right? That's what T. Smitty was trying to cover in the show that he had last Saturday. We were talking about why we're against it, not on some like ignorant shit, but on some like logical, rational reasoning. And shout out to Solon Black because he kind of touched on that. We were talking about the rationale behind not trying to mess with a woman who has kids, but nevertheless it's still like, oh no, 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 no. And they had a black woman on there who didn't have any kids, and it's like, why are you advocating so hard, right? Only for your black woman with no kids to kind of creep through and say, hey, I have no kids, right? Going back to the whole, why would you highlight something that is a common feature, right? Going back to this whole idea of all black women are professional, right? But then you'll get black women that will say, I work in corporate America and I can support myself and I have no kids. Well, why are you trying to highlight that if every black woman has it? It's like the Asian girl saying that she's smart, or the Indian girl saying, hey, I'm 24 and I don't have any kids. Okay, that's standard. It's like me trying to sell a car saying, hey, this car has power windows. Okay, most cars have power windows unless you get like the stripped down basic, here's the engine sort of car. But most cars, even the stripped down version, has power windows, right? So you're sitting back and you're like, then why are you selling yourself? Why are you saying I'm so quality because I don't have any kids? Right? Once again, it's almost like it's a setup. Let me get black men to get so tired of dealing with the whole date a woman who has kids, only for them to come through and say, hey, you must be tired of that conversation about dating a woman with kids. Right? Because I understand your end of it. I understand why you're against it. Well, guess what? I don't have any kids. Right? I don't have any kids. So what's going on? I'm waiting for that, right man to get married to. And it's like, yo, 2 months ago you were saying that it wasn't a big deal. 2 months ago you were saying that you could be potentially passing up on a soulmate just because she has a child or a couple of kids. Then you're like, now you're pulling this, right? Now all of a sudden, once again, the black sisterhood is not there, and now it's black men and black women one-on-one, right? And then you really see what a lot of black women have to say, right? Going back to this whole, once again, what's wrong with the Lek Wek behind closed doors? Look at my long natural hair. Look at my caramel skin, right? Black men, we've seen it happen before, right? So you're like, what's going on? For me, the whole date a woman who has kids, it's touchy because, once again, you have black women who really feel like they're an option, but then you have other black women that are almost supporting it because they know it's not going to go through and it's going to secretly help them out, and it's like, I can't, I have my reservations in the same way I talked about how you have your black women that want to defend black men, and it's like, okay, you're defending black men, but a month later you're throwing black men under the bus when you're talking about why you don't have a man. So, that's just my observations. Let me know what y'all think. Take it easy. God bless.